We are previewing the upcoming ECU football season. And to do that, we're talking opponents. We've talked ODU football with Harry Minium. We've talked Campbell football with Chris Haymeyer. We got Tony Haynes from NC State coming up on Tuesday. On Wednesday, we've got Jim Lauk from South Florida. Right now, we got Pete Medhurst. He is the play-by-play voice of the Navy Midshipman joining us today here on Pirate Radio Live. Pete, good to have you back on again. How you doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
Doing great, getting through these summer months and doing that by talking about football, Pete. And we've been previewing opponents and also each week previewing the position groups for East Carolina. And in conjunction with that, I'm asking people what's the best performance they've seen by. Last week it was an opponent's QB, and this week it's an opponent's running back, the best performance they've seen live. And boy, the names Keenan Reynolds and even Ricky Dobbs and Malcolm Perry, and we're the only people that still talk about Alexander Teach, I think, Pete. But a lot of Navy names have come up these last couple of weeks as they've had some good performances against the Pirates over the years.
Well, I think, there was a time when we had Keenan, Ricky, Alex, many others, and, there were back-to-back performances, I think, and down there in particular.
Yeah.
In Greenville, we put up, I think, 76 one game and 66 the next. So, from that standpoint, we had a little bit of success there. But as I told folks when Mike Houston took over down there, it was going to take him a little time, as it does every coach usually, because very rare does a new coach take over a new ready-made team. But I knew once Mike got in there and got things settled and started getting some of his players and stuff, that they were going to improve, and they were going to improve greatly. And I think East Carolina fans finally got that payoff a little bit last season. Just a tremendous game in Annapolis between the two teams. And football is better when games are competitive. Nobody likes 76-35. The winning team does. Don't get me wrong. But a football game football is much better when it's competitive. And that was, I think, more of what we're going to see going forward. With East Carolina. Than those games where we were winning 76-35. I think those days are certainly over.
A classic last year ends on an Owen Daffer, the freshman, kicks a 54-yard field goal to beat Navy up in Annapolis in just a phenomenal game. And both East Carolina wins in somewhat recent years. The other one, 2011, when Dominique Davis has a historic performance completing passes. That one goes down right to the wire as well. And, looking forward to a good one this year. And boy, last year, Navy... tough schedule as always, and some really quality wins, Pete, against UCF, against Tulsa, knocking off Temple, and then probably the one that matters most. In fact, I've talked to people, Brian Blick, who is on the staff there, is from Greenville, so got a good relationship with him, talked to him over the years, and he says if you win that Army game, not a lot else matters about the season. And how about capping the season off with that W in December?
Yeah, no question that meant a lot. And I think, the Navy team that we saw in the last quarter of the season last year was more reminiscent of what we're used to around here as a team. I think a lot of the aspects of the team started to come together last year in that final quarter of the campaign. And most notably, our quarterback. I mean, look, let's face it, we've been blessed to have some tremendous signal callers, through the years. I mean, Keenan Reynolds, probably the best quarterback in the history of the triple option because of his command of the offense and his ability to go to the line of scrimmage. If you lined up in one thing, he knew how to get Navy out of that play and into a play that was going to expose your defense anyway. You look at the production of his play. Malcolm Perry, maybe the most elite athlete we've ever had at the Naval Academy. You look at the way he played the position. It was completely different than the way Keenan Reynolds played the position. But it was his elite athleticism that led to an amazing amount of production from the player. And you go back to Ricky Dobbs. Ricky Dobbs, probably the best passer we've had in the history of the triple option. So you could go make plays in the passing game with Ricky that we probably haven't been able to make with some other quarterbacks. But you look at, and, you know, you got a North Carolina native in this mix too, Michael Haywood. He's going to be a sophomore for us this year. That young man had a 98-yard kickoff return in the East Carolina game. I think he's going to be a big factor for us at slot back this year with that breakaway speed that he has. And I think what you saw from Navy late in the year, especially because of the way Ty Levitai was playing quarterback, and that Army win and the toughness that he showed in that game, I think goes a long way toward building what was a very young team last year and some of that confidence they gained at the end of the year.
Talking to Pete Medhurst on the Pirate Radio Live line. He joins us here to talk Navy football. And, Pete, you talk about the end of the season last year and Navy hitting their stride. How about the beginning of the last two seasons? And head-scratching losses, not that you lost the game, but the way the games went against BYU and then last year against Marshall. Two good football teams, but absolute blowouts. And this year it's Delaware, FCS opponent, to begin the season. And obviously Ken Niumatalolo wants to get off to a better start than he has the last 2 years. And hopefully we'll be able to do that with Delaware this season.
Yeah, well, I think the 2020 season, I don't hold any football team that season responsible for the results.
All right.
That they had for the most part because of the pandemic and what we were doing. Navy wasn't even essentially practicing. We were essentially shorts, shirts, helmets, and pretty much nothing else in preparation because Ken Niumatalolo's job certainly is as a football coach, but at the Naval Academy, you're also trying to protect kids, you know, from what their job is going to be after graduation. They're going into the fleet, and you got to keep them healthy. We had no idea what we were dealing with,
right.
You know, at the time. Last year, the Marshall game, it was Ty's first game as quarterback. And, you know, you go into that game, you're hopeful, but we couldn't stop Marshall. It's just everything they did that day, new coach for them, you know, a guy at running back who, you know, you some snaps on, but you didn't know he was going to be that effective against you. And, you know, the first two games of the season were very disappointing. Kids showed a lot of great, great improvement at Houston. We know, and Houston was a solid club last year. So you could see things starting to, you know, come together. The win over UCF that you mentioned, obviously SMU was a decent team last year, a really competitive game, you know, in Annapolis against them. And then, you know, we know what Memphis has meant to the league. You know, Seth Denigan's going to be a great quarterback for them going forward. He was just a freshman last year. He was very impressive. Cincinnati, we know what happened with them last year. We had them nervous right down to the final possession of the game. So you could see after those first couple of games, you could see this team really start to improve and gain some better results. The Notre Dame game is only 17-6 after three quarters in South Bend. And then, of course, as you know, what a tremendous game we had with East Carolina. We kept coming back and, Holt Nailers, man, that guy's taking a lot of snaps at quarterback. And those last 5 minutes, I'll tell you, those last 5 minutes in Annapolis may have been some of Holt Nailers' best 5 minutes of football in an East Carolina uniform. And you have to give him credit for that. But I also believe that's part of the teaching, the belief that Mike has brought to that program down there. Because as you know, in years past, when Mikel Haywood, in the fourth quarter, Carlinos AC goes 90 yards for a touchdown.
Yeah.
Mikel Hayward goes 98 with a kickoff. Those are the kind of plays that normally crush you. Okay? Navy stopped them on 4th and goal, at the goal line. They got no points out of a possession. Those are the kind of things in the past that would have crushed East Carolina. But instead, Holt Naylor said, gentlemen, we're not going to lose this game. And he went and did the things offensively to get the ball down the field. And let's face it, Daffer could have made that kick from 64 yards, let alone 54. So they found quite a weapon there. But I think to me, that's the most encouraging thing is, in a time of adversity last year, you saw it multiple times with this East Carolina team, you saw them respond to that and get results. And to me, that in itself is what Mike and that staff, I think, have meant to that program, because a lot of the players are the same. Quarterback is the same. He's been there a long time. But he really showed you some kahunas in big moments last year when he had to for that football program.
Pete Medhurst joining us, and Pete Kendiamatalolo, what just the level of consistency. He's been there, took over first full season in 2008, 105-75 as the head coach, and there's been talks over the years when they have one of those seasons like they did a few years ago, 11-2, that does he go somewhere else? Does another school come after him? And I'm sure he's had his offers. He's a very young looking. I had to look it up. A young 57. So is there any talk during the off season about how long he's going to do this, Pete? Because it seems like he's got another 20-25 years if he really wants to.
Well, I mean, he is one of the finest people I've ever come across. And I've been working in sports for a long time. I mean, I got into sports radio and started my own all-sports station in Salisbury, Maryland when I was 20 years old. So I've been doing this overall like 30-plus years. He is as fine an individual as I've ever come across in sports. And if you're going to send your son to play football for somebody, and let's face it, we know the small percentages of players that get through to the NFL. We know that. The Naval Academy, the great thing about it is, when your son or daughter graduates from the academy, there is a well-paying job waiting for them upon graduation, and a minimum of 5 years. So they're going to have a job, and they're going to be making money. They're going to be getting skill training that will benefit them, far beyond those 5 years. If they choose to stay in and make a career out of it, they can. But if you're going to send your son or daughter, away from home, I can't think of a better person than Kendiamatalolo to put them around, because Coach wears his emotion on his sleeve for his kids. If you choose to come play for them, it's almost like you become a son immediately. And he understands the academy, and he understands the role it plays in developing these student athletes. And he's as competitive a person as you will ever find. But there's not a profane word that ever comes out of his mouth. There's a man that is God-fearing in every way. And as a husband, father, and as a football coach, you won't meet a greater example. There might be other people that can get close, might be on the same plane in that profession. But you won't find anybody better, from a human standpoint than Kendiamatalolo. That's why he has coached for so long. And, he's been at a service academy since, the mid-'90s, outside of, a brief time where he went and helped one of his old coaches, John Robinson, at UNLV. He's been involved in service academy football at the Naval Academy. And that, for it to work the way it has, you have to have somebody that embraces the academy, understands how to communicate, how to recruit, how to express that to his coaches, because his coaching staffs and the stability there through the years have been extraordinary. I mean, in college sports now, man, it's not just player movement. Every coach is always looking to get to that head coaching, level somehow. Where can I make more money? Where can I set my family up for greener pastures? And his coaching staff stability, and certainly the production of the young people that have played in his program have been extraordinary, to say the least.
Pete Medhurst joining us today on Pirate Radio Live, talking Navy football, the midshipmen, and of course you've got Army and Air Force, and nobody is going to overtake the rivalries with those schools, and you could throw in Notre Dame and other teams you play year in, year out. How about in the American, Pete? Does Navy have a rival within the conference? And I don't know, how have you enjoyed these games since Navy joined the AAC and become a partner with them?
Well, I mean, certainly we knew when we joined the league that it was going to be tougher. Little did we know that it would get even tougher from the standpoint of, guys can transfer now at least once, essentially a get-out-of-jail-free card. You can go wherever you want. The American is always going to benefit from P5s that are coming down. Guys that didn't get playing time early in their career got a little frustrated. But they know now there's so much exposure in the American with the great programs that are here that you're going to be able to make a name for yourself getting on the field and playing in one of these programs. Too many kids think, and look, we know when you go to Alabama, when you go to Clemson, you're getting elite coaching there too. I mean, let's not be facetious about it. You're getting elite coaching with Kirby Smart at Georgia and a lot of other places too. But this is still a game that can only be played with 11 people on the field at one time. And we've got so many kids that are sold a bill of goods by their handlers, their parents. If they're not playing as freshmen or something like that, there's no such thing as waiting your time anymore. And that's what's allowed the American to really prosper even further, is they're getting a lot of these Power 5 transfers. And it's made the league incredibly tough. Certainly with the divisional format, our games with Memphis, Houston, Tulsa, who we play every year, SMU, those games, have certainly stuck out, through the years. I think Houston and SMU, Memphis, we would love to play East Carolina every year because I think the proximity and whenever we go down there, the place is packed. You want to play in great environments.
Yeah.
And East Carolina, and I think East Carolina showed people that again in the College World Series this year in that tournament. Greenville does an amazing job supporting East Carolina in so many things. And those are environments that are fun to play in. And that's, to me, what makes it so much fun when we play them. East Carolina fans show up in Annapolis, and our people show up down there in Greenville. But it's just a great, between the two sides when we do play, a lot of respect, a lot of fun, and it's a great environment to play football at when you go play in Greenville. So, the league has been great. I mean, let's face it, I don't think anybody saw the league being this good, this deep. We got teams finish under 500 that some teams wouldn't want any part of on a Saturday afternoon just because of how competitive the football games can be. I mean, you think anybody wants any part of what Willie Fritz has been doing down at Tulane?
Yeah.
That's been no picnic for anybody, so that's the beauty of our league. I mean, day in and day out, there's really not a soft spot in our league anymore.
And Pete, you mentioned baseball there. We'll talk about all you do with the Washington Nationals in a moment, but I thought about the Freedom Classic, which is about 25 minutes from here in Greenville at historic Granger Stadium in Kinston, North Carolina. And Navy and Air Force faced off this past season, with Navy taking 2 of 3. Have you been able to get down to watch those games at all here in Eastern North Carolina?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I was able to get down and actually broadcast the Sunday game. The Sunday game down there. Hit up. I think it was either Bojangles or Church's right down the street from the from the stadium there as well. Always got to get some of that while I'm down there.
Yeah.
Look, that and Air Force. I mean, look at Air Force in postseason this year. I mean, they did a heck of a job. Our coach Paul Kostakopoulos has won over 1,000 games now in college baseball. It's the people in Kinston. They're doing an amazing job with that. They embrace the two teams. The community has done a great job coming out and supporting that as well. And look, let's face it, that time of the year, pretty tough to play baseball in Colorado or in Maryland at this time of the year. So we can usually manage to squeeze 8 to 10, and if we're lucky, 15 degrees warmer down there in Kinston at that time of the year. But it's a great experience for the young men playing for Navy and Air Force at that time. And hopefully those types of things, especially now that we seem to be getting a little further away from the pandemic, hopefully those types of things can continue, because I know those experiences mean so much for the kids, and it really helps both programs to play in a good place like that, especially at that time of the year.
Yeah, really neat deal they have going on at Granger Stadium each year. Pete Medhurst joining us. Pete, when I try to line these interviews up with you guys during the summer, June, July, that's usually vacation month for a lot of you guys. But how about you with your duties with the Nationals? Do you ever get a vacation, Pete?
I'm actually going to take 3 days off next week. That's out of town, and with my radio show every day, I got a co-host. I said, hey, I'm going to be off next week for 3 days. So yeah, we try to take a couple of days off here and there, but ultimately, everything. The only thing I've wanted to do since I was 5 years old is work in this business, and I've been blessed to do that from day one. Sometimes you got to add a few other things on the side. I know my first job. You go right up Route 13 from, right up through Norfolk and everything. That Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel to Eastern Shore of Maryland. I was making $12,000 a year working radio in the morning and at McDonald's at night. So, you do things earlier in your career to make ends meet. But, days off at this point usually mean you're missing something.
Yeah.
And I'm just blessed that I've got something that goes, from football season, to all through from September to May. I tell people my schedule's crazy because I got all my Navy stuff, Nat stuff, horse races at Rosecroft Raceway that usually intertwined in there as well. So that time period is crazy. The summer with just baseball with the Nationals, doing post-game shows and filling in for two incredible broadcasters there with Charlie Slows and Dave Jagler. I get a little more time to calm down a little bit during the summer, but, before you know it, summer camp's going to be rolling, and we're going to be in football mode here in a little over a month as we get set for another football season. So can't wait for that. But certainly, yesterday I actually had nothing. Got to sit in the pool with my daughter. And my husband. We had a day of it yesterday.
All right, Pete, we'll let you go. Before we do, you're with the Team 980, the Navy midshipmen, also the Nationals. Give me something positive about my Washington Commanders going into 2022. I need something positive from you, Pete.
It's a great question. I came out of the womb rooting for the Commanders as well, back then the Redskins.
Yeah.
So I guess the positive is this. The positive is physically you have upgraded the quarterback position. Whether mentally we've upgraded that position remains to be seen, because that's the biggest part for Carson Wentz to figure out now.
Yeah.
It's not physical. We know he's got the big arm. He's got the tools. The question is mentally, can he stay focused over a 17-game schedule and do the things necessary to win a very tough division? Eagles and Cowboys are going to be incredibly tough to deal with this coming season. In the NFC East. So that's the biggest thing right now, as far as I'm concerned, is they've upgraded the quarterback position in terms of physical talent. Question is what you like about the intangibles of a Taylor Heineke, who played up the road at Old Dominion, is, does Carson Wentz possess those things?
Right.
Because if somehow some of that rubs off on him, then you got a guy that is a solid starter in the league. Whether that translates to more wins or losses remains to be seen, certainly at this point.
Well, for better or worse, really looking forward to another year of Washington football. And hey, I do like the head man in charge there, in Ron Rivera. I gotta say that.
Yeah,
so
no doubt.
There's a big positive. Pete, we'll try to reconvene with you in September as East Carolina takes on Navy. But enjoy the rest of your summer. It's been awesome to talk with you today, and we'll do it again down the road.
You got to do the same, and we're looking forward to it.
Thank you, Pete. Pete Medhurst joining us today here on Pirate Radio Live. Has his own show to take care of as well, talking sports up there in the Maryland, in the DMV, as he also is a part of the Nationals radio network. And we'll reconvene, like I said, with Pete in September and talk more Navy football.